What are some things financial advisors should be thinking about when it comes to technology?
I'm going to state the obvious with AI. If you are at least not dabbling with it, you are already behind. I don't know too many folks that say, I just love taking notes during my meetings. It's like, you're going to miss something. That's just human nature. So at least if you aren't dabbling with the easy low-hanging fruit like an AI note taker, even taking it to the next step with AI prospecting, building in overlays just to help with your workflows, you're probably already behind. We know the wealth management industry is notoriously behind when it comes to technology, and rightfully so, between regulation and getting things to talk to each other, but it's coming and it's coming fast. So it's like, get on board or get left behind.
Welcome back to another episode of Do Business, Do Life. Excited to have Shannon Rosic here with us today. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you. It's always a little strange being on the other side of the mic. I'm going to have to stop myself from flipping the script and asking you the questions today.
Hey, we were just talking before we went live here, and when you're used to doing the interview and then you flip on the other side, it's a different sort of challenge mentally, because on this side, like I will tell you as a podcast host, I have so much more respect now for like the Oprahs of the world, the Larry Kings of the world, because to do an interview, it's just like you've got to constantly be listening, but figuring out where it's going. And so you'll crush it, but much respect to hopping over to the other side of the mic. Let's go into the cool thing is in your chair, you've had a decade of experience, and that's really cool. You've had a diverse, you've had a lot of stops along the way as far as being able to learn from different angles when it comes to finance and technology. So I'm sure there's some theses that have evolved, because I look at it when you've got this 30,000 foot view and you're kind of getting bombarded with all of the stuff that's around the corner, right on the cutting edge of technology. What are the themes you see if you were looking out 3-5 years? I don't want to go too much further than that because technology evolves so quickly, but next 3 to 5 years, what are some things financial advisors should be thinking about when it comes to technology?
Absolutely. So I'm going to state the obvious with AI. If you are at least not dabbling with it, you are already behind. So I don't know too many folks that say, I just love taking notes during my meetings. It's like, you're going to miss something. That's just human nature. So at least if you aren't dabbling with the easy low-hanging fruit like an AI note taker, even taking it to the next step with AI prospecting, building in overlays just to help with your workflows, you're probably already behind. So that's something that especially the next generation of advisors is going to be focused on, is that hybrid model of the human touch married with AI. I always look at it as more of a co-pilot. You look back in 2007, 2008, when we had the robo scare and those headlines dominating and everyone freaking out that robos were going to take advisors' jobs. No, it just opened up another market segment for a different type of investor. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If anything, it's a good thing because it keeps us honest and innovative. So I think, AI is ultimately going to change everything. It's a bit scary. I don't know if you've seen the recent news. I literally just saw it today, actually. I think it's called DeepSeek. And it's this, it's basically already better than open AI. And they had a minimal R&D budget. I think it was like 6 million. Whereas you have firms like Meta and Alphabet and Google spending that for one engineer to do this. And so I think things are going to change much faster than people expected. As we know, the wealth management industry is notoriously behind when it comes to technology, and rightfully so, between regulation and getting things to talk to each other, but it's coming and it's coming fast. So it's like, get on board or get left behind, for lack of better terms. The other thing that we're seeing that other industries have already figured out is the data management side of things. We hear firms all the time, like, you're only as good as your worst piece of data, because garbage in, garbage out, right? If your systems aren't talking to each other, you're inputting incorrect information somewhere as simple as if you type in John Smith in your CRM and you have him as John A. Smith somewhere else, can't get that data to talk to each other. So, watching RIAs hone in on roles like hiring a CTO. As we know, a lot of RAs don't have them. This is an area that I love to focus on. For the last 2 years, I've been hosting CTO think tanks at our various events, and I bring in about 15 CTOs from billion-dollar plus RIAs and essentially talk about what's keeping them up at night. And that is AI and data management are consistent topics. So whether they're trying to build data lakes, upgrade legacy technology, people don't realize that it's how much of a heavy lift that is. And we've seen now business strategies and technology strategies really become one and the same at firms because that's how critical it's become because, you can get overwhelmed quickly. We've all seen the maps out there. Kitsy's map is great. I reference it all the time to stay up to date on what's happening, but it can be overwhelming to prioritize and give your advisors what they need. So that is certainly an area that I think we're going to see an uptick is this demand for talent around tech and IT because it's so critical. One that doesn't get talked about enough, it usually shows up in headlines as a scare tactic. It's getting a little more love, but cybersecurity, that is a huge one now. Obviously, with AI, now we're now seeing firms specifically focus on that around cyber because the attacks are getting more sophisticated with deep fakes and voice recognition.
Yeah. You and I have a lot of recorded audio out there, which is a bit scary.
Exactly that. And so what do you do when somebody calls in and says, I swear I'm so-and-so? Well, how do you actually know? And so I've been asked even before, what are security measures that you can take? And it's sometimes even as simple right now as going back as, do you have a phrase within your CRM that only you and your client know and things like that. And so, cyber is becoming, coming into focus much, much more than I think it has in the past. Obviously, always an issue when you're dealing in finance, but now having solutions tailored to these RAs to be able to help them with these issues is a big one. And what else has changed? I think this rise of the all-in-one platform, I've debated this build versus buy for years. And there's pros and cons to both at the end of the day.
What are, just for advisors that are listening in that maybe they haven't lived in the world that you've lived in, and the build versus buy, which was a debate we were just having internally at Triad.
I'd love to hear about it.
What are some firms that you would say went on one side or the other? Here were some firms that went build, here were some firms that went buy, and here's how that's kind of played out. Any that come top of mind?
Yes. So, I look at, I'd say, so you look at the massive, kind of like aggregators of the world, the cap trusts. You look at Dynasty. You look at, let's see, who else, like Merit, all the folks that have been doing it well. And I do you want me to speak directly to RIAs or do you like the all-in-one?
Just riff. Yeah, just go for it. Pros, cons, what you've seen.
Yeah. And so, the problem with the build, so you have these firms kind of like take Farther, for example. They have gone all in on building a digital first only RIA. So they are doing it all in-house and they've been successful. I think they have over like 5 billion now in AUM. So they're doing well. But the problem that I'm seeing when it comes to all in one is that can you actually maintain that expertise in like 12 areas outside of the core of, investment management, financial planning, and CRM, like everything else that comes with it? You're going to tell me that you can successfully maintain all of that well? So yes, I mean,
it's almost the maintenance cost catches up to you, right? Because when you build it, it's like, hey, everything's state of the art, it's brand new, but now 5 years, 10 years from now, technology evolves, coding evolves, and it's like, wow, now I have to maintain this build.
Well, right, exactly that. And advisors can benefit, obviously, from having everything integrated in one place. But again, at the end of the day, like, show me someone that can maintain all of that and do it well and stay on top of all these trends. And look, in every category of tech, we've seen a proliferation, whether it's estate planning, whether it's prospecting, whether it's note taking, whatever it may be. I think we're going to go through this era of an ebb and flow again, where there's all this excitement, all this new stuff happening, and then we're going to start seeing the consolidation again. I think in particular with AI, look, love all my note takers and everything, but we have enough. No offense, but
there's enough .AIs out there. That's for sure.
Exactly. And so we're getting to a point, it's like, well, how are you even differentiating? pretty, it's not difficult to explain what this does.
Yeah, it's almost like the tough part. Like if I was an advisor out there and like, what do I integrate into my tech stack? It reminds me of the .com era of the late 90s. This is the future. You just don't know which one, right?
Well,
is it pets.com or is it amazon.com? Because one goes to zero and one takes over the world. And so that's the hard part right now with where AI is at.
Right. Exactly that.
Okay. So let's go. First off, I didn't want to interrupt you, but this little CTO roundtable thing you got going on, we have a CTO that he should be here in about a month or so. So please reserve Trad a seat if you're open to that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's been fascinating actually, because I didn't know if CTOs would be into something like this. It's that kind of peer-to-peer sharing. And, I've been fortunate that I've partnered with John O'Connell of the Oasis Group for these, because he has a very deep technical background. And so he's able to kind of speak their language a little bit more when it gets into the deeper than the weeds. I was pleasantly surprised about how forthcoming they all were, not only about kind of their strategies and how they're viewing things, how they listen to feedback within their firm. Like I said, the things that keep them up at night. So it's been a pleasant surprise to be able to build out this cohort. And now we've had folks who are repeats because they love to come back and hear from the folks in the room. So it's become this really nice community. But again, it's small. The CTO world out there is tiny. So I'm hoping as things progress in our industry, you'll start seeing those roles pop up a bit more, because firms now realize, like I mentioned, how integral they are to the firm's success.
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit more. You said something that piqued my interest around workflows and AI overlays and all of that. And you also said something that I think is very, very important. I'm going to repeat it: garbage in, garbage out when it comes to data. And so that's tough, because you just have to have this almost quality control aspect to how it gets input. But let's go to workflows. So I know Redtail is 75, 80%, I think, market penetration for CRMs and finance, at least based on the last stats I saw. I know as a CRM that has workflows built into it. So let's just say, hey, my data's pretty sound. I'm using Redtail. I've got, my 10, 15, 20 workflows on the onboarding of a new client, the transfers, all of that. How will the right AI impact that sort of situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I always look at AI kind of as the ideal financial partner, right? Because it's unemotional, it's impartial, and can make just a host of calculations and find patterns in seconds. And efficiency lies at the core of sustainable growth, right? So by optimizing those operational processes and eliminating those efficiencies and embracing these technological advancements, firms can really enhance their agility and adaptability in what's now this very rapidly changing landscape. So it's all about prioritization at the end of the day when it comes to your workflows. Where do you want to free up your time and focus on what you do best, which I've said this ad nauseum, but it's serving your clients. So automate those mundane tasks that are routine, but you need to be working obviously with your tech team to ensure that your data is secure, sound, accurate, and you can't do anything. You can't even start messing with AI if you don't have that in place. So that's number one. Like, yes, it's very exciting. AI can come in, automate, do all this stuff, but you can't even get there if you don't have that data strategy in place. So that really is number one. I think people forget that they can't just really come in and plug and play with these things. There needs to be, what business challenge is AI going to solve for you? That's what you should be asking at the end of the day. So if you don't have that right, you can't even get to that workflow stage. But if you do have it right, if you are a firm that you made that a priority, it's just managing how you want your day to day to look, right? What is your focus? What is your priority? Where are the areas that you want to get better at? That's the beautiful thing now when it comes to, say, even for marketing. Advisors now are asked to wear how many hats? They're now life coaches, they're financial planners, they're friends. At the end of the day, you're sharing very intimate information with them. You want to trust them. So, and a lot of them don't want to spend this time having to now be on social media, come up with marketing campaigns, but AI now can do all that for you. And that's the beautiful thing. And you can build that into your workflows. Say you spend some time getting that right, your messaging right. Boom, you put that into a prompt in ChatGPT. You have your emails done. Put that into your CRM, create a workflow there. Again, it's about prioritizing. I always say, make AI do the stuff that you either don't want to do or you're not great at. I say the same thing. I get asked a lot about, coaching for media. If you don't like video, try podcasting. You don't like that, then write something, but just, be out there expressing your opinions, expressing your voice, but do it in a medium that makes sense for you. So I've always kind of looked at those as almost in parallel to one another, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a friend that has really been geeking out on AI lately, and his thesis is he doesn't believe humans will be replaced by AI anytime soon. He believes humans will be replaced by humans that know AI. And so that's kind of the thesis that I think we're all kind of talking about here.
That, and I would have to agree with it, because the thing that's a bit scary about AI is it's kind of taken knowledge currency, if you will, almost to zero. Anyone can access any information they want now on any topic and really just kind of become an expert if they really wanted to, just by prompting AI. I mean, I use ChatGPT almost every day, and it's usually just to ideate if I need ideas for, session topics for an event, or putting one of my podcast transcripts, just to get a rough outline, and I put it into my voice. But that's the scary part about it is because all this knowledge and information is accessible. And look, you can argue probably that the internet plays a similar role, but things like ChatGPT and OpenAI and Gemini and all these platforms now are making it even easier than before. And so what do we do now, knowing that we have access to all this information? Like Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. And so how are we going to manage that? How are we going to regulate that? And I think that's one of the scarier, sides of AI. While it's great when it's acting as your co-pilot, what happens when it goes beyond that? So I'm confident our industry will come in with some regulations around it, and make it a bit more of an even playing field. But the technology is moving faster than that. So that's also what's a bit scary as well.
Well, I heard this the other day. It's wild. So you just think about these breakthroughs in human evolution. So the Industrial Revolution, what'd that do? That replaced typically the lowest wage workers. It was like the factory workers. Now, instead of them doing it, now a machine did it. Where AI is actually coming from the other side. The people that are most likely to suffer first are the knowledge workers. Like I saw a study the other day, ChatGPT had passed all the med exams and oftentimes gave better advice than an actual real doctor, because it's sourcing the entire knowledge base of human society, right? Of human history, I should say. And so this is an interesting one where it's a bit scary. And also it takes the opportunities of business to whole other levels that I don't think anybody ever thought of. And you mentioned cybersecurity earlier. When it comes to technology, I heard the saying, if you don't pay for the product, you're the product. You've heard that one before, I'm sure. Facebook, oh, it's free. No, they just harvest all your data.
We are the product. Yeah,
exactly. So with all of these free AIs, I think when it comes to cybersecurity, and when you look at finance, hackers target us for a reason, because of the gold mine of information if they get through. What are your thoughts when it comes to AI and these free AI note takers, and you don't actually know where your data is going? Is there any sort of anything on the horizon when it comes to finance of like, wait, you shouldn't use that because your personal identifying information could be being harvested and just going to some random place on the internet where have no idea where it's going? Yeah. Have you seen anything? Anybody having conversations around that?
They're starting to happen more. So we have seen an uptick, like I said, for solutions that are specifically tailored to RIAs to help them with that. the biggest thing, honestly, what I'm hearing even outside of AI is firms are just still trying, like, let alone that threat. They're still trying just to figure out a way to make things like text messages compliant between advisors. So things like, Red Tail Speak or my rep chat, things like that. There are solutions for it, but we can't even get that right. That's still such a massive pain point for firms is they can't manage, if somebody has a personal phone, you're friends with your client, and sometimes you're going to forget and it's going to go out on your personal or something happens, right? Like, how are you maintaining that compliance and archiving to make sure if the SEC comes knocking, you can handle that, right? So that's scary stuff, number one. So then you layer on.
So what I kind of hear you saying between the lines is we can't even figure out how to text message properly yet. So that's probably a ways down the line before they figure that out.
Right. And look, I think AI is doing a lot of good. And I've certainly been guilty of being on the hype train. Heck, like I said, I use it myself, and it's been nothing but a benefit. But it is always in the back of my mind of like, well, are they just going to create an avatar of me one day? And like, that's that. And I can be broadcast all over and that's whatever. So I think about those things. But it's on a firm by firm basis. Like, everyone needs to have a policy around like data governance. That's another thing that often comes up too in those think tanks that I mentioned, is ensuring that everyone is clear on the expectations, because things do slip through the cracks. And so it's more of a people problem than it is a technology problem, because it's same thing as the data. If one thing is slipped up because of human error, that impacts everything. It's the same thing with this. If somebody is a bit of a weak link and they're out there not being compliant, they're shooting off stuff, they're using these tools that maybe haven't been approved within your firm, or they haven't been vetted, you haven't done your due diligence, like, just stay away from it. If you want to do things on your personal time and dabble just to learn, sure, encourage that. But when it comes to your actual business, I would stay away with that stuff for now, because we don't know yet what that actually looked like. And as we know, and look, the retail industry is the perfect example of how we've become the product. I go back to the story about, there was this news article years ago, this girl, her dad found out that she was younger, found out she was pregnant, because he started getting like emails about like all this baby stuff. And turns out, she was pregnant, was shopping on Target, had all the targeted ads, Babies R Us, and it spiraled because now we get served up, obviously, as we know. And so, you put one thing out there, it gets scraped, it gets aggregated somewhere, and next thing you're in trouble. So I say, any of that stuff, if you want to dabble on your personal time, great. You should be learning it. Again, the AI denialism is over. Nip that in the bud. Like I said at the beginning of this, you should be playing with it, but within your firm, stay away, because you're going to create a headache for somebody who's going to probably have to deal with that at the end of the day. Because, like I said, we don't know yet. It is the Wild West. We are very much in the early stages. And while that's exciting, that comes with consequences. And I'll say it again, the wait and see approach is over. Experiment and be comfortable with it, but not at the expense of your business or your practice, or impacting other people because you think it's fun to play with these things. And like I said, great, but stay away professionally, I think, for now, because you can get hot water.
Well, prime example of that, Chat GPT, a lot of people don't know, you do the paid version, you have to actually opt out of sharing your information.
Yes.
Did you know that there's like a privacy setting on the back end? So if you're not opted out, wherever that cloud storage is going, your stuff's there.
That's there, right? And they know more about you than probably most people at that point. I think that's the strangest thing to me because that was something I had to look into, because that's every firm, no matter what vertical or industry you're in, is dealing with this right now. I mean, folks are using this. I mean, I have the app on my phone, things like that, but I did research that to make sure I could opt out, because I think everyone needs to shift their mindset a little bit around data. Like, our information is out there. everywhere. So just be cognizant of what you're putting on there. And it's creepy because it learns your voice and your tone, and it learns about you the more you prompt it. And, you learn quickly, the better the prompts, the better the responses. So you can go down these rabbit holes, but then next thing you know, like you said, all that data is floating up there for somebody else to possibly use against you.
Well, here's 2 movie recommendations for those out there that are like, okay, I'm kind of falling into this AI rabbit hole. Have you seen the movie Her?
Yes. Oh my God.
Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson. So what's funny is I think that's like almost 10 years old now. And now it's actually becoming reality. They're showing like people are like real humans are having romantic relationships with AI.
Oh yeah. Oh, and it's scary because it doesn't discriminate. I've seen headlines from teenagers all the way up to older adults having these AI relationships. So yes, that movie was a bit ahead of its time. So
there's one. The other one, this one's much wilder than I know. Elon's all over the news lately with his robots. What are they called? Optimus. He must have, I think he stole that from Transformers from back in the day. But so have you seen the movie Ex Machina?
Oh gosh, it's been a while, but yes.
That's a wild one too. I won't give away the ending, but that'll scare you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to spend after you listen to this or watch this, if you want to see AI and where it could go, just watch those 2. And sometimes fiction becomes reality, so you never know.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just kind of final thoughts on AI too. It's, I think right now too in our space, it's a lot of these overlays on existing solutions. We haven't seen a lot of, AI native solutions yet, but I think over really the next 5 to 10 years, we'll have to rethink every software we use from an AI native standpoint, which basically means, how do we have AI tell us what to do next? Because its current limitation really lies in the fact that it's designed to give us an answer every time, opposed to, really, really helping you learn or anticipating, right? So, a lot of these kind of early implementation use cases that we're seeing are developing so quickly. I think what happens next is going to be far more complex and materially different than what we're experiencing now, because in its current state, it's a bit of this slow boiling pot and the water is warm right now. And you don't want to be the one jumping in at the last second. So I think, we talked about workflow. So making things like those everyday tasks approachable, you should be experimenting, but I think things are going to change exponentially. In the next couple of years, it's going to be a wild ride.
So let's go there. So let's just say today, let's say I'm overseeing a $1 billion RIA. It's kind of the standard, like not an aggregator, but like it's our legitimate practice. I've got a team of advisors, team of 20, 25, let's say. So I've got a budget and I hire Shannon. I say, hey, come in. I want you to be my consultant. And our goal over the next 3, 4, 5 years is to build a moat around the castle here to AI proof us where AI doesn't replace us. What sort of things would you be thinking about? What sort of questions would you be asking if you were advising me?
So first thing I would say is you need to make sure that you're building a tech stack that aligns with your firm's goals, mainly growth goals too. So that should be number one. What technology, how can you leverage technology to, free up your time, ensuring that you're focusing on the right things so you are constantly focused on that growth goal. I think really prioritizing that client-centric technology, that's adding a lot of tangible value, because what we've seen is kind of where we are now is these platforms are, they're very advisor-centric, right? And the goal is to have seamless integration, single sign-on, a better client experience, better UI, UX. And so I would say you need to be sure you're investing in technology that strikes that balance, because at the end of the day, it should all be about the client. So, if you have a particular niche that you're honing in on, if you're a firm that solely focuses on, say, divorcees or widowed women, do you have technology in simple things, even if it's like a data visualization that you can pull together and easily distill things down into kind of that one-page financial report? Are you making sure that technology ladders up to your firm's goals, your mission, and your values is number one. Staying informed about developments that are happening. So I always say you start with your core, which is your investment, management, your financial planning, CRM. If you have those down well, those are integrated, and you kind of start there with the hub, that's when you can start getting a bit more fun, and you can kind of spoke off and get into things like estate planning, specialized planning. If you're focusing on retirement, for example, you can start looking at things like AI prospecting, the catch lights, the AI identifieds of the world, folks like that. And then, even going beyond that, we're seeing so much around going back to your point of the human element to making sure it doesn't replace you. Look at all the behavioral science data that we have now, that folks can work with. And now we have all these behavior assessment tools, advice engagement tools, things like Nudge or Asset Map or Illumient, Atlas Point. Daniel Crosby from Orion has been a champion of this for a long time. You can start dabbling with those things to go deeper with your clients. That's why they're there, to help align your goals so you can do that. And then, you know what? I still think the client portal is still such an important thing that folks sometimes still overlook. Like, a lot of firms still don't have that right.
Yeah. So selfishly, let's hit on that one, because we are deep in the build out of our member portal. What are the non-negotiables in your opinion? Obviously, we integrate both insurance planning and asset management, but what would be some things we should be thinking about if, like, these are the pillars of a good portal? What should those be?
So have you talked to the guys at Financial yet? Tom Fields and his team. So they have done something really, really interesting. Like, look, you have your eMoneys, your Invest Clouds, your eVestech, Circle Black, that all help with kind of like that client portal aspect. But Financial is so interesting to me because they are
so Financialist. Is that what you're saying?
So the firm is called Financial with a Y.
Okay, got it.
And it's this really awesome, like, unified mobile experience that's tailor built for RIAs. And so everything is brand on the app. It's all on your phone. It's seamless. It combines traditional wealth management tools with modern social engagement features, and engagement being the key word, right? And so the biggest thing is your client portal. Is it easy to access? Do you have to jump around?
How many different logins do you have to do to get the information? Yes, like single sign-on is a non-negotiable these days.
Exactly. So yes, so that really is number one. I'm sure you're seeing it. Mobile is so popular now. Again, that gets back into the whole cyber and security thing. But at the same time, you've got to meet clients where they are. You can't physically be available 24/7. But with a mobile login, and they can just look on their phone quickly. Is everything displayed in one place? Is it easy to see just their overall account balances? Are the important things that they care about immediately front and center for them? So they know, like, okay, I'm in a good spot. They can reach out to you if they have specific questions, if there's a market downturn or they want to diversify or whatever it may be. But all of that core information should be easily front and center. And then you should be able to access your advisor from that portal. Is there a feature that maybe you can go out into a chat? You have all these AI chatbots now that can help. Or is there just an easy way, if you do have questions, boom, I can just go right here within the portal and be able to access my advisor if I do need that human guidance at the end of the day. So there's a still that fine balance of, again, I'm still a firm believer that an advisor isn't going to be replaced anytime soon. But you need to find other ways to bring in value than just beyond what it used to be. So folks notice things like this. Do you have an easy, seamless experience from the moment you are onboarded? Can you access your information easily? Do you have to reach out do you have to email your advisor? Like, who has time for that? No one. The advisor and the client don't. So if you're going in, just make sure everything single sign on. It's an easy experience, integrated with the data that they want to be able to see. And listen to feedback too, if clients have it.
There's a novel idea.
I mean, that could go back and go down the rabbit hole. But, you know, a lot of firms that I've seen, going back to that build versus buy, they're building what they think is best and where they excel in, but are they taking the end client into consideration? Because if you don't know who you're going after, or who you want to focus this for, it's not going to work. It needs to feel tailor-made and built for that client, right? Like, they just don't want some generic experience with bells and whistles they don't need. Just give them the stuff they want.
Yeah. Well, you said it earlier, meet them where they're at. A triad, our definition of that is member obsession. We want to build on their behalf. And a lot of the technology solutions, because it's so hard, it's like, just to even get these, you look at the world of insurance and the world of asset management. It's almost like two different religions that are fighting sometimes in finance, you know? And the truth is, the software is built on one side or don't really talk to the other. And to integrate those together, it's like messy, it's clunky. But I will tell you, just straight up, our thesis is we're going to do it no matter what it takes. And it has to be, I'm like thinking Apple product, like, you know, the original iPod, why it took over the world, it was not the first MP3 player, but look at every other MP3 player. They were clunky. They had you had to read an instruction manual to use them. The iPod just worked. You just plugged it in. The songs were there. You had the little scroll wheel. Then it went to the iPhone. And so I think the minimalistic, kind of the seamless, the user interface, it just has to be easy. It just has to be intuitive, and you have to get it. And unfortunately, that's really hard to do.
And then that's what people don't realize. So, like, I can sit here and say, oh, just make it easy. Just make sure you have the right integrations. Well, that takes work, effort, roadmap planning,
yes,
like money, oversight, like
a lot of money, then more money after that, and then
more than you probably anticipated. Just pre-exit whatever you thought it was. But I want to flip the script a little bit, because I want to ask you something, because this is also a trend I'm following. You brought it up with insurance and wealth management, because one of my hopes for this year and beyond is that we continue to actually see this convergence of industries. So healthcare, insurance, wealth, you know, wouldn't it be nice, say, if you're looking on Zillow to buy a house, boom, your mortgage is sorted. Everything's all there in one spot. So whether it's healthcare, education, retirement, you know, every life event, I think, should have, you know, financial services baked into that experience. So just curious, you know, where you're seeing the puck moving. I mean, we've had all these kind of health tech providers crop up that have made inroads to wealth management, and now they're getting zapped up. You're seeing even the RPA side of things. You're seeing RIAs, you know, buy RPA businesses to start focusing, you know, on 401k and managing plans. And so it's interesting convergence. It's going to be clunky, but I think it's the right way to go, because that's what people want at the end of the day. Easy, all in one place.
Well, Shannon, I've lived this. And the cool thing is, we've seen this already. We've seen this story play out. Look at Amazon. They started with books. What'd they do? I mean, Jeff Bezos, if you go back and watch some old interviews, they started with books, not by accident, but because there was such a large SKU. They were easy to ship, you know, not too big, so easy to carry large inventory. And he's like, we're going to sell these all over not only the country, but the world, because there's a demand there. And, you know, you go into your local bookstore, they don't have the one you need. So how do you get it? And now they're the everything store, right? And you go to them for everything because it's easy, it's intuitive, it's one-stop shopping. So all kind of my analogy, I'll apply that to the fiduciary approach. So I grew up in the insurance world. We all have our biases. Some know that we have them, some don't. And I started cold calling to grow a book of clients back in 2007 in an insurance brokerage model. If I picked up and it was an RIA or a registered rep at a broker dealer, this would have been 07, 08, and I said the word annuity, I had a dial tone in my ear.
I was going to say.
That's how it worked. And, you know, and so what I saw, though, over, you know, I guess almost 20 years now in this space, thank God it's converging, because my definition of a fiduciary approach, which I believe, I was just talking to our PR firm. I'm like, I think this is going to be a fun article. So I'll get your take and you tell me if it's trash and we'll just throw it away. But I think the definition of fiduciary is broken in finance. It's been weaponized as a marketing term. And in fact, the definition is legally do what's in the best interest of your client. And I believe to legally do what's in the best interest of your client, You need all of the financial tools possible in the toolbox. And then you select the best tool to do the job most efficiently for the client. And from my experience, clients don't care. They don't want to get down in the toolbox and rummage around with you. They just want a financial plan. You mentioned some great tools like Asset Map. They just want an intuitive plan that says, oh, cool, I can retire and do those bucket list trips I've been dreaming of. I've got a budget to go see the grandkids that move 5 states over a couple times a year. And it's just a plan that works. And so my thesis is a true fiduciary in financial services is actually putting as many tools as an independent advisor as possible in the toolbox, and then actually truly being a fiduciary and grabbing the right ones for the job. So that's my take. That's our mission.
Honestly,
you on board with that?
I am. And thank you for calling it out, because this is actually a conversation I just had with our senior tech editor, Davis Janowski. We were debating this, a trend I follow very closely is the millennial and Gen Z expectations in financial services and the future of advice there. And he made a good point, and I have to agree with him. We keep hearing similar to this is that democratization of advice, which look, yes, we're getting there, but at the end of the day, it's kind of BS. Like that, there's still so much wood to be cut there when it comes to it, because let's be honest, like wealth management still caters to high net worth or more affluent. Like we're not there, and how long have we been hearing democratization? Like this tool will do this, and it's like,
and those biases that are formed. Well, like I said, we all have them because how finance came to be, it was a product distribution network. So if you look at just a lot of captive groups, you are trained to sell what's on the shelf, and what's on the shelf is different based on the firm. And in one firm, annuities are the best thing that you've ever seen and heard, and they're the best, and every retiree should have them. And in another firm across the street, they're the worst thing possible. And oh my gosh, that's, you should never do that. And unfortunately, the one caught in the middle is the retiree that's just looking for great advice that's going to help them in the most efficient way.
Right. And our industry focuses so much on the accumulation aspect that we're finally starting to see that shift of, oh yeah, I need to take them through decumulation too, because there's opportunities there as well. So that's a whole other episode.
Hey, I believe, fact check this, somebody on the internet or chat GPT it. I believe statistically, those that perish trying to summit Mount Everest, the vast majority they've already actually reached the peak. It's on, getting back to the bottom. And that's my analogy for life is you've got your accumulation phase, your working years. Well, now you've got your nest egg. Now it has to get you to the end. Your income has to last as long as you do. And so it's a really important problem to solve, and it takes a different set of tools to do it because it's risk mitigation. It's making it last. It's not maximizing returns at that point.
Right. Exactly. So I'm hopeful that we'll have more of that experience. I even speak to my own personal experience. I'm a dink, or as somebody affectionately called me the other day, a dish. Dual income supports horses, which is probably more fitting than dual income.
You deserve your own label.
I have my own label. Yeah. But it's funny because when I was first out in the market looking for an advisor, I came across a woman that I loved, but she was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, we're not taking on folks like you. I got with another advisor, and he kind of just threw everything into a Monte Carlo simulation. I had checked out at that point because I was like, why aren't you asking me the questions that matter? Why am I telling you like all this? Like, why aren't you trying to dig a little bit deeper? Like, I'm the ideal client for a lot of folks because you'd have the longevity with me. Again, dual income, no kids. Like, we have goals that we've established. So
you're Chiefs fans, so you're good people,
Exactly. I should probably find an advisor in Casey.
Hey, Casey's got a great market for you. I promise there's a lot of Chiefs fans advisors. So, have you seen the trend of basically, who was I talking? I think Thomas Kopelman, I had a conversation with on this. I think his model actually for high income, but not a lot of assets accumulated yet, because a lot of firms will have minimums. They'll charge 1% of income for financial planning. Have you seen those models? What do you think about that?
I think it's a good thing. I think we're going to see another kind of fundamental shift in the way firms are structured and the way their fee models are structured. Obviously, you've heard and seen all the headlines about fee compression, everything going to zero. You're going to have your standard tried and true fee onlys. I think that's great, but I think there's space for other ways because folks are going to be more comfortable if they have options at the end of the day. So I think it's a good thing that we're starting to see these different kind of compensation models within firms to be able to offer folks, because not everyone wants to do the 1 or 2 basis points or do the fee only. So I think having this shift and folks are realizing they need to find other ways to obviously keep making money. So I think it's honestly a good thing.
Very cool. Well, Shannon, time flew.
Yeah, they did.
we're over our scheduled time, but it's been a blast. So I just have one final question on my side. As you know, this is the Do Business, Do Life podcast, and Triad's definition of that is, it's the infinite game. We want to crush business, we want to crush life, and kind of the integration versus the tug of war, the balance. So I'd love to hear what's Shannon's definition of doing business and doing life.
Oh boy. Okay. This is a big life question, but I think for me, it's all about creating that harmony between what you do and who you are. So I look at myself, I'm a content creator, I'm a horse girl. Those are the things that define me. Not all of them, I have more, but those are the 2 big things that really do. And so, it's about building a career that fuels your passion, but never at the expense of the life that you want to live. You've heard the saying, everyone's heard, you work to live or live to work, right? And you can go either way, and then there's no right answer. It's just who you are and what you love to do. But to me, it's really about breaking out of the mindset that success is measured only by metrics and achievements, and realizing that true fulfillment comes in the balancing act, because that is one of the hardest things to do. I mean, heck, I was on my computer till like 1 a.m. last night, and I was like, oh no, how did this happen? I'm working away. But then on the flip side is like, well, I do that so I have time so I can actually go to the barn during the day and spend time with my horses and working with them. And so, look, if I have to have a couple late nights, that's the trade-off. But if you can find that balance between your work life, your relationships, and your personal growth, you are winning at life, and you're probably ahead of 99% of people in the world if you can kind of keep that all in perspective. So, for me, it's all about just being intentional, lead with that, create a career that brings you joy and meaning, but leave room for the life that energizes you to keep going. Love it. Well, by the way, shout out to Sarah Baker. This has been an incredible conversation. She made the intro. So Sarah leads our Triad Wealth team, which is all over the tech side. Trust me, there's so much going on in that tech stack right now. Actually, Sarah on the podcast, she's like one of the best people ever. So
have you had her on your podcast yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I had Sarah.
Awesome.
So she was phenomenal, but I expected nothing less. So
she crushes every podcast. I mean, shoot, I might just have her take this one over. She's so good. But well, thanks so much, Shannon. I've enjoyed every minute. Thanks for geeking out with us on tech, and look forward to when our paths cross in person. Yeah, likewise. Hopefully sooner than later. Get see you out on the road. I'm glad we finally made this happen after several trials and tribulations. Yes. So, but thank you again. Just it's an honor to just be on here speaking with you, because the guests you have, I've listened to several of your episodes, and the guests you have, I'm just glad I wasn't like episode 100 or a big milestone or anything. So truly, absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and this was a lot of fun. Like I said, it's always weird for me being on the other side of the mic, so I appreciate it. I was going to tell you crushed it on the other side of the mic, so you should do it more. So well, thank you. Well, until next time, and be well.